July 18th. That's a good thing, actually, except I'm centering this. July 18th, 2024, a year that'll live in history. Um, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so I'm to the point of thinking, okay, I really should set up a newsletter system. By the way, as an entrepreneur or whatever, the beauty of that is gathering email addresses is you don't really need to follow through. You don't ever need to make a newsletter unless you want to. It depends on what your plan is, your marketing plan is. And so monthly would be good, weekly would be good, daily's a bit much unless you really got a sales funnel going. See, I'm not doing the newsletter to get potential customers into a sales funnel. All right. Depends on what your use case is. I don't know. Primarily, well, I think I'm going to make it about Cloud 3, which is what I think Web 3 should actually be called. So, um, but that's another story, sort of, kind of, maybe. I don't know. So anyhow, one thing leads to another, and that's why I don't do a lot of this stuff myself anymore because money pit comes to mind. It can be a kind of a money pit type thing of for your time. It can be a time pit. You end up spending it, and it that is just a detail. It's not what you're trying to do. So it gets scope creep. It gets more and more complicated. So it occurs to me with if I set up the newsletter, I want to make a new email account, and I've owned my own email system forever. And so I can do it. It's just a matter of doing it. But to do it, I'd have to hook up to HostGator through cPanel and start doing some FTP and this kind of stuff. Configure my Thunderbird client for the email account. But yeah, this I've mentioned in other recordings. You can expect 30 to 40 malicious email accounts coming through. Um, or email addresses every day. So I don't want to send it to one of my production emails that I'm currently got going that I monitor and stuff. And I've cut back on my email accounts since I've gotten out of doing domain stuff. Just fluff. Fluff. I have a whole philosophical systems design thoughts on what I call fluff, but you'll have to watch other videos if you care about that. So, yeah, I really should do it, but this is where I need people to do it for me. I need an IT team, a Web 2.0 team. I need a Web 2.0 team because they'll think learning it's wow, really going to get them good jobs and pay and all this sort of stuff. And it kind of will. But I'm about Web 3. I need to be spending my time in Web 3, and I need people to spend time in Web 3 with me. It's cyberspace, and how my way of how I've gotten expertise in many very high value skills is when I get into something, I tend to go deep and broad, and I eat, live, and breathe it until I feel like I've got it, so to speak. So ideally, I'll have partners that are like that, but I don't know. That kind of is a definition of passion, I guess. You need to be passionate about it. You got to be passionate about wanting to have expertise in a particular skill. So, Uniswap creates more efficiency by solving liquidity issues. And that's a key term in our ontology, liquidity pools. It's critical to tokenization, and we should all be able to discuss it fluently. Especially because a lot of these concepts really are uh, tough to wrap one's mind around, at least my mind around. And I have trouble wrapping my mind around it. I'm sure you do too. Um, so see, it's not just about minting NFTs. It's not just about D-apps. It's not just about this new machine that we have available to us in the 21st century, and available to pretty much anyone. And they keep referring to the term permissionless, which I find funny because I was just thinking you. One of the beauties about Web3 is you don't need to ask anyone's permission, and so we'll build it. One of the things I tend to think is build it and they will come to build it. I mean, this is a constantly expanding team. There's so much to be developed. And people ask me, okay, as a senior systems developer, so what do you develop? What is the system? Well, right there, they don't got their mind right, boss. Um, it's not about one, it's about many. But then one of the things I've been thinking about that I'm kind of trying to invent a metaphorical light bulb. In that a legend about Thomas Edison is a reporter or somebody asked him like, you failed to discover the filament for a light bulb 1,000 times. Why don't you just quit? Why do you keep going? Why do you think you're going to be successful? And the response was supposedly, um, no, I didn't fail. I just learned 1,000 ways not to invent the light bulb. Right. So there's a phenomenon for an entrepreneur, if you're worth your salt and entrepreneur salt, you go from thousands, like 1,000 or more. Say that because in altcoins there's like 10,000 or more. And you want to curate, you want to eclectically get down to like 100 ones to look at further, to drill down further and consider. And out of that, you really want to get like a dozen that might be viable that you want to concentrate on. And out of that, you'll be lucky if you've got 1 to 3 that are like really something. So you have 1 to 3 that are really something, probably pays the bills, so to speak. You've got some that have promise, but they're not really making huge profits. They might even be losing a little bit, but they have promise or potential or whatever. And then you might have a few that are looking like losers, but we're seeing if we can salvage them. Are we just not approaching it correctly? Okay. Uh, what have I been talking about? Well, I don't like to be negative, and it's best not even bring it up, but sometimes lessons learned. The last Smart Connect session with Alignable turned out to be a webinar. It's kind of interesting though, because there's like 30 of these little video window things of attendees. But basically, one guy was just rattling on about what he thinks about branding and marketing and I guess secrets or whatever that the attendees could profit from, but it wasn't really telling me anything new. So a bit of redundancy isn't bad. Uh, you don't know what you don't know. That's worth about 100 DRD points. Uh, but on the other hand, it's sometimes good to reinforce. Yeah, I knew that. I knew that. I knew that. So if I know that, then have I been using it? Okay, so that's good for this recording.